What would you do if you sent your most powerful fleet to destroy humanity, only to discover that the humans have been waiting for you the entire time? My name is Orth. For 41 years, I served the Calerii Dominion as a senior tactical officer. I planned wars. I studied enemies. I built strategies that commanders trusted with the lives of thousands. I had fought 4 major wars and several smaller conflicts. I had never lost one. Not once. So when I stood inside the Galactic Council chamber on the day humanity was declared a threat, I believed we were making the correct decision. I believed it completely. There were 17 species represented in that chamber. 17 civilizations that had spent thousands of years building alliances, borders, traditions, and rules. Humanity had been part of the galactic community for less than 200 years. To us, that was almost nothing. Some species had been traveling between stars for more than 11,000 years. They had ancient empires. They had fleets that had fought wars before humans had even learned to leave their own planet. They had systems of government that had existed for generations. And then humanity arrived. At first, nobody was worried. The humans were technologically interesting, but they were not the strongest. Their ships were not the fastest. Their weapons were not the most powerful. Their shields were not the best. Their economy was not the largest. Their population was not even close to the largest. But there was something strange about them. They refused to behave like everyone else. They settled worlds that other species considered useless. They built stations near unstable stars. They established colonies at the edge of dangerous nebulae. They traveled into regions that had been marked as too difficult or too expensive. Whenever someone asked them why, they gave strange answers. Because it is there. Because we wanted to know what was there. Because someone had to try. These answers sounded harmless. At first. Then the humans started growing. They did not expand because they wanted an empire. At least, that was what they claimed. They expanded because they wanted opportunities. They built. They explored. They traded. They negotiated. And they questioned almost everything. That was what made the older powers uncomfortable. For thousands of years, everyone had understood their place. Some civilizations were powerful. Some were weak. Some controlled trade routes. Some controlled resources. Some were protected by alliances. Others accepted whatever agreements the powerful species offered. The system was not always fair. But it was stable. Then humans came along and started asking questions. Why should this planet belong to you? Why should this trade agreement favor your species? Why should we pay this tax? Why should we accept this border? Why should we follow a tradition simply because it is old? They did not ask these questions with anger. That was the strange part. They asked politely. They listened carefully. They smiled. Then they said no. 3 border conflicts with the Thrani collective should have taught us something. In every conflict, human ships were outnumbered. They were often outgunned. Yet the humans refused to retreat when our tactical models said they should. They would lose a position and return with another plan. They would lose a ship and change their tactics. They would encounter a problem and immediately start searching for a solution. They did not always win. But they almost never allowed the enemy to win easily. The Thrani hated this. The Calerii disliked it. The Duran Empire feared what it might eventually become. And slowly, a dangerous idea began spreading through the Galactic Council. Humanity was growing too quickly. If their growth continued for another 300 years, they might become the strongest civilization in our region of the galaxy. Not because their technology was better. Not because their people were smarter. But because humans never seemed to stop. Every setback became a lesson. Every failure became information. Every closed door became an invitation to find another way inside. That was when the Council stopped asking whether humanity was dangerous. Instead, it began asking what would happen if humanity was allowed to keep growing. The answer frightened the old powers. So they made a decision. Humanity had to be stopped. The vote lasted 3 hours. The final result was overwhelming. 912 warships would be sent into human space. The First Armada. The greatest military force the Council had assembled in generations. The Calarii Dominion would provide the largest portion. The Thrani Collective would send additional vessels. The Duran Empire would contribute heavily as well. 3 civilizations. 1 fleet. 1 target. Earth. I voted yes. I want everyone to understand that. Nobody forced me. Nobody threatened me. Nobody lied to me. I studied the intelligence reports. I examined human military capabilities. I reviewed every battle we had recorded. Then I helped design the operation. For 6 weeks, I worked on the plan. I calculated jump coordinates. I planned approach vectors. I assigned formations. I studied their defensive systems. I estimated their response time. According to our calculations, we would reach Earth in days. The losses would be acceptable. The victory would be decisive. Our commander was Admiral Draven Su. He was one of the most respected military officers in the Dominion. He had commanded wars before I had even entered the academy. Before we departed, he shook my hand. The plan is flawless, he told me. I believed him. 12 days later, the fleet assembled beyond the Venn cluster. I stood on the command deck and watched 912 warships fill the darkness. 3 different civilizations. 3 different military doctrines. Yet together they looked unstoppable. The combined firepower of the fleet could destroy a small moon in less than an hour. I had personally calculated it. Humanity had perhaps 200 military vessels spread across more than a dozen systems. We had more than 4 times their known strength in one fleet. One of my junior analysts stood beside me. His name was Pell. He was young. Very young. He looked at the fleet through the viewing screen. Then he asked me a question. Do you think the humans know we are coming? I laughed. No. Then I added something that I now regret more than almost anything else. It does not matter. We jumped. The journey through folded space lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes. That was all. 11 minutes between confidence and disaster. When we emerged near the outer edge of human territory, something felt wrong immediately. There was no traffic. No navigation signals. No communication. No routine transmissions. No civilian ships. No patrol signals. Nothing. Human space was silent. Not normal silence. Wrong silence. Every inhabited system produces noise. Ships communicate. Stations broadcast signals. Navigation systems transmit information. Civilizations produce electromagnetic activity. But there was nothing. Admiral Su noticed it too. Launch scouts. We launched 48 drones. They moved ahead of the fleet in a wide formation. They were advanced military drones. They had redundant systems. Even if one sensor failed, another would continue transmitting. We expected the drones to return with information. 16 minutes later, 31 of them stopped transmitting. One after another. Not all at once. That was what disturbed me. They disappeared in a pattern. The outer drones first. Then the ones closer to us. No explosion. No weapon signature. No energy burst. Nothing. They simply stopped. Pell studied the data. He looked at me. The signal losses are not consistent with any weapon we know. What does that mean? I don't know. That was the first time I heard uncertainty in his voice. We called a command briefing. Several senior officers suggested retreating to the jump point. Admiral Su rejected the idea. The humans want us to hesitate, he said. He believed it was psychological warfare. Noise. Silence. Confusion. A trick designed to make us afraid before the real battle began. I agreed with him. We advanced. The fleet moved deeper into human space. 4 hours later, the first warship disappeared. It was of Thrani escort. One moment it was on our tactical display. The next moment it was gone. No explosion. No distress signal. No attack. Nothing. We searched the area. There was no wreckage. Only tiny traces of material that proved the ship had been there. 30 minutes later, another ship disappeared. Then another. We changed formation. We tightened our defenses. We increased sensor output. It did not help. Over the next 18 hours, 26 more ships vanished. We could not see the enemy. We could not detect the enemy. We could not target the enemy. Yet the enemy was taking our ships. That was when fear began spreading through the fleet. Not panic. Something worse. Uncertainty. Every officer knew the same thing. Their ship could disappear next. And there was nothing they could do about it. I walked through my command ship during the 19th hour. I wanted to see my crew. I wanted to know whether they were holding together. They were. They were doing their jobs. But I saw something in their eyes. They had discovered something that military training could not protect them from. Being good at your job did not matter if you did not understand the battlefield. My weapons officer, Gar, had served for 30 years. I had never seen him afraid. He pulled me aside. "Commander," he whispered, "I have tried everything." "What did you find?" "Nothing." He swallowed. "I cannot detect whatever is taking our ships." I looked at him. "Can you stop it?" He shook his head. "No." That answer followed me for the rest of my life. We were not fighting a normal battle. A battle requires two sides. You fire. The enemy responds. You adapt. The enemy adapts. But this was different. Something was happening to us. We could see the results. We could not see the cause. And there were still no human ships. Not one. We should have been fighting their defensive fleet. Instead, their space remained completely silent. At the 22nd hour, Admiral Su gave another order. "Maintain formation." His voice sounded calm. But I knew him. Something had changed. He no longer sounded certain. He sounded like a commander trying to make everyone else believe that certainty still existed. We continued. By the 30th hour, we had lost 63 ships. Then we discovered something even worse. Debris. Huge fields of it. Old wreckage. Not ours. Human space was filled with the remains of warships. We analyzed the metal. Thrani. Duran. Other civilizations. I stared at the report. The Thrani had sent a punitive fleet into human space 11 years earlier. According to official records, that fleet had been recalled. The Duran Empire had sent a task force 7 years earlier. According to their records, that task force had completed its mission and returned home. But the wreckage told a different story. They had never returned. Their ships had disappeared here. Just like ours. I contacted Admiral Su. "How long has this been happening?" "Our analysts estimated between 7 and 12 years. He was silent. Then he asked me for my assessment. I gave it. "The humans have been preparing for this for years." He said nothing. I continued. They knew someone would eventually come. Another pause. This is not an improvised defense. I looked at the debris surrounding us. It was built for this. Admiral Su finally spoke. Continue. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him to turn around. But I understood his position. We had already lost 63 ships. Returning without reaching our objective would mean admitting defeat. The Council expected results. So we continued. And if you are enjoying this story so far, take a moment to support the channel. If you enjoy stories where humanity looks weak until the galaxy discovers what humans are really capable of, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want more HFY science fiction stories, and share this video with someone who loves epic space battles, mysterious alien civilizations, and humanity proving everyone wrong. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to you. Now, let us return to the fleet, because what happened next was something none of us could have imagined. For 3 hours, nothing happened. No ships disappeared. The fleet continued moving. I almost felt relieved. Then Pell called me. Commander. His voice was different. What is it? The interference is changing. I looked at his screen. He was right. The strange sensor interference that had surrounded us for more than 30 hours was shifting. Then, for 14 seconds, our sensors cleared. 14 seconds. That was all. But it was enough. Something appeared. Something enormous. Not a ship. At least not the kind of ship we understood. Our sensors detected a structure so large that some systems classified it as a region of space. There were no engines. No normal energy signature. No visible weapons. No obvious shape. It simply existed. Pell stared at the data. I think it is one thing. What? Everything we have been detecting. He looked at me. I don't think there are multiple systems. He pointed at the screen. I think it is one. The interference returned. 3 ships disappeared. Then 5. Then more. The rate was increasing. We were no longer being removed slowly. Whatever was happening had become faster. At the 38th hour, something appeared on our sensors. A ship. Finally. A human ship. It appeared 1,200 kilometers from our formation. That was extremely close. A ship that size should have been detected long before it reached that distance. But it had simply appeared. I studied the image. It was enormous. 3 or 4 times the mass of our largest vessel. Its shape was unlike anything in our database. Every ship we had ever studied followed familiar rules. Weapons needed space. Engines needed room. Crew quarters needed protection. Power systems required certain structures. This vessel seemed to ignore all of those assumptions. It looked like something designed according to rules we did not understand. Admiral Su ordered me to establish communication. I opened a human frequency. This is the first armada of the Galactic Council. Identify yourself. 12 seconds later, a human voice answered. Male. Calm. Not nervous. Not angry. Calm. You are inside human defended space. There was no threat in his voice. Your fleet is not authorized to proceed. A pause. You may gather your remaining vessels and leave by the route you entered. Another pause. This offer will not be repeated. That was all. No speech. No threat. No demand for surrender. Just a choice. Leave. Admiral Su did not leave. He ordered weapons ready. I understood him. After losing more than 100 ships to an enemy we could not see, our entire fleet desperately wanted something it could attack. The human vessel was visible. So we targeted it. Our weapons officers prepared firing solutions. Hundreds of ships locked onto the target. Then we fired. The sky became light. Energy weapons struck the human vessel. Kinetic weapons followed. The combined power was enough to destroy a large asteroid. The human ship did not move. It did not shake. It did not show damage. Nothing. 6 seconds after we stopped firing, 4 more ships disappeared. Then the human vessel moved. But it did not move like a ship. There was no acceleration. No thrust. No jump signature. One moment it was 1,200 kilometers away. Then it was 400 kilometers away. Our systems recorded almost no travel time. Hell stared at the display. Commander. What? The ships disappearing are not near the human vessel. I looked at the tactical map. He was right. The ships were disappearing throughout the fleet. Not around the human ship. Everywhere. Then the truth hit me. The human vessel was not the weapon. It was only part of the weapon. Maybe it was not even the most important part. We had entered something. Something enormous. Something the humans had built around their home. We had not entered defended space. We had entered a trap. A controlled zone. And the humans had been waiting for us to arrive. Admiral Su ordered another barrage. More than 700 ships fired. Nothing happened. The human vessel remained untouched. Ships continued disappearing. The command structure began to break apart. Not because officers were cowards. Because our entire military doctrine had become useless. Every response failed. Every weapon failed. Every sensor failed. Every tactical prediction failed. We had reached the edge of what we understood. Then Admiral Su transmitted his final order. All vessels, defensive formation Delta. Maximum sensor output. Identify and engage whatever is causing our losses. It was the correct order. For a normal enemy. But this was not a normal enemy. In the next 40 minutes, 114 ships vanished. Then Admiral Su's ship disappeared. No explosion. No final transmission. One moment he was there. The next, nothing. I was now the highest-ranking surviving officer in the First Armada. I looked at the tactical screen. Hundreds of lights were gone. Thousands of lives. Years of preparation. The greatest military force our civilization had assembled. Gone. And I knew we were going to die. Then I did something I had never done in my military career. I ignored the fleet. I opened the human communication channel. This is Commander Orth of the Calarii Dominion. My voice shook. I am the senior surviving officer. I paused. I request to speak with the human commander. 12 seconds later, the same voice answered. Commander Orth, he sounded almost relieved. I was hoping someone would call. I had prepared questions. I had prepared demands. I had prepared offers. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. What is this place? There was silence. Then he answered. That is a complicated question. I have time. No, Commander. His voice remained calm. Respectfully, you do not. I looked at the tactical display. Another ship disappeared. He continued. But I can tell you what matters. This zone has existed for 15 years. We built it after the first attempt to destroy us. I closed my eyes. 15 years. They had known. They had prepared. They had waited. He continued. We learned something important. A visible fleet defense can always be defeated if someone sends enough ships. So we built something different. It does not have a size at which it fails. It does not have an ideal attack direction. It does not have a limit that can simply be overwhelmed. It maintains the zone. Anything that enters without authorization does not leave. I asked him the question I was afraid to ask. How many fleets have entered before us? He paused. You are the third. The words hit harder than any weapon. The Thrani fleet. The Duran task force. And now us. 3 major civilizations had sent military forces toward humanity. None had returned. Then I asked something even more difficult. Why are you letting me leave? His answer surprised me. We are sending you home. There is a difference. Why? Because someone needs to explain what happened. I said nothing. He continued. We do not want another fleet. We do not want the next 900 ships. We do not want the next 9,000. We want your council to understand what will happen before it sends another force. I looked at the wreckage around us. How many people have died? He did not answer immediately. Then he said, enough. There was something in that word. Not pride. Not excitement. Regret. That was the moment I realized something. The humans were not enjoying this. They were not attacking us because they wanted conquest. They were defending themselves. The human commander spoke again. You can leave. I stared at him. You are giving us a choice. We gave you a choice before you fired. I remembered the message. Leave. We had ignored it. He continued. Your navigation systems will update shortly. Follow the exit route. You will not be attacked. I asked him why humanity had built such a terrifying defense. His answer changed everything I believed about humans. We expanded into empty systems because they were empty. We negotiated because we wanted fair agreements. We questioned your traditions because we did not understand why age made something fair. And when 3 civilizations tried to destroy us, we built a defense. That does not make us aggressive. It makes us prepared. I said, you have enough power to dominate the galaxy. He replied, maybe. Then came a sentence I will never forget. But we have no interest in becoming what we were afraid of. I sat quietly. For decades, I had believed strength meant the ability to destroy your enemy. The humans had taught me something else. Strength could mean having the power to destroy someone and choosing not to. My navigation system updated. A route appeared. It led directly out of human space. I followed it. Nothing attacked us. Nothing chased us. The sensor interference slowly disappeared. The stars became clear again. Our systems returned to normal. And for the first time in almost 2 days, I could see the universe properly. Behind us was the human home system. It looked ordinary. A star. Planets. Moons. Stations. Nothing that revealed what had happened. No giant fortress. No visible superweapon. No endless wall of warships. Just silence. That was what frightened me most. Humanity did not need to show its power. It had already proven it. I returned home alone. My ship was damaged. My crew was exhausted. And behind us were more than 900 missing vessels. When I arrived at the Galactic Council, they asked one question. Was the first armada destroyed? I looked at them. No. They waited. It was removed. Some representatives looked confused. I explained. A destroyed fleet leaves evidence. You can study the weapons. You can examine the wreckage. You can identify mistakes. You can learn. A fleet that is removed is different. It leaves almost nothing. No enemy to target. No weapon to analyze. No strategy to improve. Only silence. And one survivor. One survivor sent home with a message. I told them everything. The vote. The plan. The jump. The missing drones. The disappearing ships. The debris. The human vessel. The weapons that failed. The final conversation. And then I told them what I believe now. Humanity is not a problem to solve. Humanity is a fact to accept. The council was silent. For the first time in 11,000 years, I saw the oldest powers of the galaxy look uncertain. They had spent centuries believing power was measured by territory. By fleet size. By weapons. By influence. Humans measured something different. Possibility. They did not ask whether something had been done before. They asked whether it could be done. That difference was everything. The humans were not the strongest because they had the biggest weapons. They were dangerous because they refused to accept limits that other civilizations considered permanent. If a ship was too slow, they built a faster one. If a planet was too dangerous, they learned how to live there. If a region of space was impossible to colonize, they studied why. If a weapon could destroy them, they built something that made the weapon irrelevant. And when 3 civilizations tried to destroy them, they did not immediately conquer those civilizations. They built a shield. They waited. They gave warnings. And when the warnings were ignored, they allowed the attackers to destroy themselves against a defense they could not understand. That was the most frightening thing about humanity. Not their weapons. Their patience. 15 years. They had maintained that defense for 15 years. They did not announce it. They did not threaten the galaxy. They did not demand tribute. They did not send ambassadors to boast about their achievement. They simply built it. And waited. I began thinking about what that meant. If humanity had wanted an empire, they could have used their technology to conquer worlds. They did not. If they wanted revenge, they could have hunted down the governments that attacked them. They did not. If they wanted recognition, they could have demonstrated their power publicly. They did not. Instead, they kept exploring. They kept trading. They kept building. They kept negotiating. And they kept defending themselves. The council asked me what I recommended. I gave them the only answer I could. Do not send another fleet. Not because we are weak. Not because the losses would be too expensive. Not because we lack weapons. But because another fleet would teach us nothing. We already know the result. The humans showed us. They even offered us a way out. We refused. And they still allowed one of us to survive. Think about that. They could have destroyed every ship. They could have killed every crew member. They could have made the first armada disappear completely. Instead, they sent me home. Why? Because they understood something we did not. A dead enemy cannot carry a warning. A survivor can. They did not need to threaten the council. They simply gave me the truth. Then they trusted us to make the correct decision. That was more frightening than any threat. Because it meant they were confident. Completely confident. They knew exactly what would happen if we attacked again. They did not need to guess. They had already tested their defense against 3 fleets. They had already improved it. And while we were sitting in the council chamber debating whether humanity was a threat, humanity was probably doing what it always did. Building something new. Exploring something unknown. Solving another problem. Looking toward another star. That thought changed the way I saw the galaxy. For 11,000 years, we had believed that civilization moved forward through control. Control of territory. Control of resources. Control of trade. Control of weaker species. But humanity seemed to move forward through curiosity. They were not trying to control the galaxy. They were trying to understand it. And that made them unpredictable. The council wanted to know whether humanity could be defeated. I told them that was the wrong question. The correct question was whether defeating humanity was worth becoming the kind of civilization that would need to do it. Nobody answered. Years have passed since the first armada. I still remember the lights. 912 lights. When we left the staging point, every one of them represented a ship. A crew. A family. A future. I remember how powerful we looked. I remember believing victory was certain. Now I understand how dangerous certainty can be. We believed the humans were weak because their ships were not the strongest. We believed they were reckless because they explored dangerous places. We believed they were disrespectful because they questioned old traditions. We believed their refusal to surrender was arrogance. We were wrong. Their refusal to surrender was simply the result of something we had forgotten. Freedom. The humans did not believe they were superior to us. They simply did not believe we were superior to them. There is a difference. A very important difference. And perhaps that is why the galaxy misunderstood them. We expected a rising civilization to demand power. Humanity demanded fairness. We expected them to build an empire. They built colonies. We expected them to conquer their neighbors. They traded with them. We expected them to kneel before the old powers. They asked why they should. And when we finally decided to destroy them, they did not panic. They did not beg. They did not send a desperate fleet to negotiate. They waited. They had already prepared. That is the lesson I want every civilization to understand. Do not mistake quietness for weakness. Do not mistake curiosity for stupidity. Do not mistake kindness for helplessness. And most importantly, do not force a peaceful civilization to demonstrate how well it can defend itself. Because by the time it demonstrates that ability, it may already be too late. The humans are still there. They still explore. They still negotiate. They still question our traditions. And they still refuse unfair agreements. But now, something has changed. The Galactic Council listens when humans speak. Not because they are afraid of them. At least, not only because of fear. They listen because humanity has earned something that cannot be demanded. Respect. The old powers once believed the galaxy belonged to them. Now they understand that the galaxy belongs to anyone capable of surviving in it. Humanity survived. More than that. Humanity adapted. And they did it without becoming monsters. That may be their greatest victory. Not the weapon hidden around their home system. Not the fleet that can erase invading ships. Not the technology that lets their vessels move in ways our physics once said were impossible. Their greatest victory is that after everything we did, they still chose not to become like us. They could have used their power to dominate. They chose not to. They could have demanded submission. They chose not to. They could have destroyed every enemy that ever threatened them. Instead, they built a wall. A silent wall. A patient wall. A wall that simply said, "You may enter if you come in peace. But if you come to destroy us, you will not leave." I have spent 41 years studying war. I thought I understood power. I thought power was the ability to destroy your enemy. Now I understand something different. Real power is having nothing to prove. The humans never needed to tell us they were strong. They simply waited until we tested them. And when we did, they showed us. Then they sent me home. That was the part one struggled with most. They could have kept me. Instead, they trusted me to tell the truth. So I am telling it. The first armada did not return. 912 ships entered human space. One ship came home. Mine. And the most terrifying part of the story is not what happened to the other ships. It is what happened after. Nothing. Humanity did not invade us. They did not attack our worlds. They did not demand payment. They did not celebrate. They simply continued living. They continued exploring. They continued building. And they continued watching the stars. Waiting. Not for another war. But for another civilization to finally understand the lesson we learned too late. Humanity is not the monster hiding in the darkness. Humanity is the civilization that survived the darkness long enough to stop being afraid of it. And if you ever see a human ship approaching your border, do not immediately ask how powerful its weapons are. Ask something much simpler. Why did they come? If they came to trade, welcome them. If they came to explore, guide them. If they came to negotiate, listen. And if they come peacefully, do not give them a reason to stop being peaceful. Because somewhere beyond the stars, around a quiet yellow sun, there is a defense system that has been waiting for 15 years. It is still there. It is still active. It is still watching. And the humans do not need to send their most powerful fleet to prove anything. They already proved it. We sent ours. It never returned.